Welcome to the AI for Career Success podcast by Curt Robbins, where we help you get smarter than your competition. I'm your host, Fred Jones, and this is episode 195.
And I'm Daphne Blake. It's great to be here with you, Fred.
So today's conversation is actually based on a really fascinating article written by the show's producer, our very own senior technical writer, Curt Robbins.
Yeah, it's titled, What Accenture's 11,000 Layoffs Reveal About the Future of Your Job. He published it over on LinkedIn on March 11th.
I'm really grateful that Curt writes so many informative articles every week. He really helps listeners achieve a balanced perspective when it comes to AI, including its pros and cons.
And, this topic is it's incredibly timely. Because, Fred, we've all heard the terrifying prediction.
Like Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei saying we might see a 10 to 50% unemployment rate for entry-level white-collar workers.
Right, which sounds like total sci-fi doom-mongering. It's the kind of headline that makes you panic for like 5 seconds, and then you just go back to your day thinking, well, that's not going to happen to me.
Yeah, you just kind of brush it off. But today, we are stripping away that abstract fear. We're looking at the hard, undeniable data of what is actually happening in corporate America right now, so we can help you safeguard your career.
Exactly. We have a concrete, real-world case study. We are talking about one of the world's biggest companies.
Yeah.
Accenture.
Right, the global consulting titan. They have over 700,000 employees globally, and last September, they fired 11,000 workers.
11,000 people.
Yeah, it was part of an $865 million restructuring.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the why here is, well, it's pretty shocking. The reason they gave for firing these specific people was that they were deemed, and I quote, untrainable in artificial intelligence.
Untrainable.
But what's fascinating here is how the corporate view of an employee is fundamentally shifting, from a static worker to what Accenture's actually calling a reinventor. Accenture CEO Julie Sweet talked about this on an earnings call. She stated that they are exiting people on a compressed timeline for whom reskilling just, isn't a viable path.
I mean, I had to push back a little on how ruthless that sounds. Is it just a brutal corporate excuse? Or is it just necessary adaptation to a hyper-competitive market?
It's a tough question.
Because to me, it's like, imagine a factory suddenly switching from steam power to electric power.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
And they just immediately let go of anyone who refuses to learn how to flip the new electric switches.
Yeah.
They just don't have the time to coddle them.
Exactly. The runway is just gone. But Fred, here is where the data gets really counterintuitive. Because you hear about 11,000 layoffs, and you think the sky is falling, right?
Right. You think the robots are taking over and the company is shrinking?
But despite firing 11,000 people, Accenture's total headcount is actually expected to increase in 2026.
Wait, really? How is that even possible? You slash 11,000 jobs, but the company gets bigger.
Yeah, so Curt details this in his article. He calls it the headcount paradox. This wasn't a simple reduction in force. It was a wholesale swap.
A swap. So they aren't just cutting costs.
No, not at all. They are swapping out human generalists for highly specialized AI-ready staff. The hard metrics back this up perfectly. In 2023, Accenture had 40,000 AI and data professionals.
Okay.
By 2025, that number jumps to 77,000.
Oh, wow. So they nearly doubled their specialized AI workforce in 2 years. They're essentially cannibalizing their own workforce to rebuild themselves as a high-tech unit.
That's exactly what they're doing. And Julie Sweet actually gave this really interesting analogy in a CNBC interview. She said AI is going to change daily life, and she compared the large language model, the LLM, to the mall.
The mall.
Yeah.
Like a shopping mall.
Yeah, a centralized hub. She's saying the LLM will be the infrastructure where everything happens. Even your doctor or your local hospital will eventually operate out of this digital mall.
That is a wild concept to wrap your head around. But hold that thought for a second, Daphne. Let's take a brief break for a special message from our producer, Curt Robbins.
Hi, this is Curt Robbins. First, thanks for listening. I truly appreciate your support. I want to let you know that I'm currently accepting new clients. My rates are affordable, and I have more than 25 years of experience working for enterprise companies like Microsoft, Northrop Grumman, Oracle, PNC Bank, FedEx, USAA, and Wells Fargo, among many others. If you want to improve your IT documentation and communications, hire me. I deliver fast, know how to use AI to improve efficiency and accuracy, and love going the extra mile to satisfy my clients. Thank you for subscribing and listening. Back to you, Daphne and Fred.
Welcome back to the AI for Career Success podcast, where we help you get smarter than your competition.
So before the break, we were talking about this headcount paradox and how Accenture is basically swapping out generalists for AI specialists. But Daphne, let's make this practical for the listener.
Yeah, let's bring it home.
What should you actually do with this information so you don't end up on the wrong side of that corporate swap?
Well, the article quotes an organizational psychologist, Ehsan Etezad, and his warning is pretty stark. He says the 2026 layoffs will likely be worse than 2025.
Ouch, okay.
But he gives very clear advice. He says you need to, quote, learn and play more with generative AI for content creation, data analysis, or automation, not just reading about it.
Exactly. And this lines up perfectly with what Julie Sweet brought up at the World Economic Forum in Davos. She emphasized that transitioning to AI as a society requires a deep understanding of the technology. It's totally different from past tech evolutions. You can't just passively use it. Leaders have to actually understand how it works to make choices, especially regarding entry-level jobs.
Yeah, and there was a comment from the article that I think perfectly summarizes this. It was from a reader named Andrew A. Carls, and he pointed out, he said, adopt or get left behind isn't a slogan anymore. It's happening in real time.
It really is. It's happening right now at places like Accenture.
And Curt's advice in the article is incredibly blunt on this point. You have to engage in continuous learning as if your income depends on it.
Because it absolutely does.
Exactly. The old way of doing things, being a generalist who just processes paperwork, is gone. Which leaves us with a really important final thought for you to mull over. If Julie Sweet is right, and the LLM is becoming the new mall of society, that base infrastructure, what kind of storefront are you building inside of it?
Oh, that's a great question.
Right. Are you just kind of wandering the halls, looking at the window displays? Or are you figuring out how to set up shop and offer specialized AI-driven value?
You definitely want to be the one owning the storefront, not just wandering around. Thank you for listening to the AI for Career Success podcast from Curt Robbins, where we help you get smarter than your competition. Remember to buy us a coffee and hire us to coach and train your employees for AI. We'll see you next time.